1 year later, I'm sitting in my tiny apartment, swiping through Tinder for what feels like the millionth time. It's exhausting. The same empty conversations, the same guys who never call back, the same sinking feeling that maybe this is just my life now. Then Taylor walks in, carrying a bottle of expensive wine. Not the cheap stuff we used to drink in college, real grown-up wine that probably costs more than my electric bill. She plops onto my couch, glances at my phone, and smirks. "Still looking?" she asks, nodding at my screen. She doesn't have to specify what I'm looking for. We both know. "Just browsing," I say, forcing a laugh. But we both know that's a lie, too. Because no matter how many guys I talk to, no matter how many first dates, late-night texts, and fake flirty conversations, no one takes me seriously. And I know exactly why. Because 1 year ago, I made one careless joke. I laughed and said, "Oh, please, I had my 304 phase before marriage, who didn't?" And my husband heard me. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just walked away. And now, he's gone. And I'm left here, drowning in regret, realizing too late that some things aren't funny. Before everything fell apart, my life was perfect. I had Kylie, the kind of man most women dream of. Loyal, hardworking, dependable. The kind of guy who always made sure I got home safe. The kind of guy who held doors open, remembered my coffee order, and never made me feel like an option. We met in our late 20s, when we were both done with the games. Kyle wasn't the most exciting guy in the room. But he was the kind of man who showed up. And after years of dating guys who were only there for a good time, not a long time, that was everything. So when he proposed, I said yes without hesitation. We got married, settled into a comfortable life together. Everything was solid. Until I made the joke that destroyed it all. It happened at a casual dinner party with friends. We were all laughing, drinking, swapping old stories. The conversation turned to dating and college bad dates, hookups, wild nights. And then someone joked about how different people are before and after marriage. I don't know why I said it. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe I was just trying to be funny, trying to fit in. But without thinking, I laughed and blurted out, "Oh, please, I had my 304 phase before marriage, who didn't?" The second it left my mouth, I felt the energy shift. Some of the guys at the table smirked, some of the girls giggled awkwardly. But Kyle, he went completely still. His fork hovered mid-air. His jaw tightened. He didn't say anything. Didn't laugh. Didn't even look at me. I tried to brush it off, make it seem like a joke. "Oh, come on, babe, you know I'm just messing around," I said, nudging him. But he didn't smile. He just put his fork down and said 2 words that sent a chill down my spine. "Got it." And right then, I knew. I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. After that night, everything changed. Kyle didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just stopped trying. Stopped texting me first. Stopped calling me babe. Stopped looking at me the same way. At first, I thought he was just upset. That he'd get over it. But as the days passed, I started to realize he wasn't angry. He was done. The little things I used to take for granted? The morning kisses? Gone. The random, "just thinking about you" texts? Gone. The warmth in his voice when he said my name? Gone. One night as we were getting ready for bed, I tried to snuggle up next to him like always. But he didn't move. Didn't turn to hold me. Didn't even acknowledge me. And that was the moment I realized I was losing him. And I didn't know how to stop it. A few weeks later, I came home to find Kyle sitting at the kitchen table. His posture was calm. Too calm. I knew that kind of calm. It was the kind that came after a decision had already been made. "We need to talk," he said, his voice steady. My stomach dropped. "Kyle, come on. You're still mad about that dumb joke?" I forced a laugh, trying to make light of it. He shook his head, expression unreadable. "It wasn't just a joke, Riley. It was what it meant." I frowned. "What does that even mean?" He leaned forward, staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "I thought I knew the kind of woman you were, the kind of wife I married. But that night, you made me realize something. I was wrong. My chest tightened. Kyle, stop! You're blowing this way out of proportion, I snapped. But he wasn't done. I don't care about your past. What I care about is that you made a joke our life. Our marriage seemed like it was plan B. Like I was just the guy you settled for, and you laughed. I opened my mouth to argue, but he shook his head. I deserve someone who respects me, Riley, and I don't think that's you anymore. And then he got up, grabbed his bag, and walked out the door. No yelling, no second chances. Just gone. And for the first time, I realized I had pushed too far. And now, I couldn't take it back. At first, I told myself it was fine. Kyle was just being overly sensitive. He'd cool off, realize he was overreacting, and come back. And if he didn't? Well, maybe I'd find someone better. After all, I was still young, attractive, and fun. Men liked me. I could move on fast. At least, that's what I thought. So I jumped into dating apps. At first, the attention felt good. The messages, the flirty banter, the quick rush of validation. But then, I started noticing a pattern. The guys I matched with? They didn't want a relationship. They didn't take me seriously. They treated me exactly like I had treated careless replaceable. The men I thought would be lining up to date me? They saw me as nothing more than a fun distraction. And suddenly, I realized something I never expected. I wasn't wife material to them. I was just another option. And the one man who ever truly saw me as more than that? I had already lost him. Weeks turned into months. Kyle never came back. No late-night texts. No, I miss you messages. Nothing. And then, one day, I saw him again. I was out running errands, barely paying attention when I heard a familiar laugh. I turned my head and there he was, Kyle. But he wasn't alone. He was smiling, laughing, with another woman. She was beautiful, effortlessly confident, the kind of woman who didn't need to make cheap jokes for attention. And the way he looked at her? Like she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. The way he used to look at me. My stomach twisted as I watched him open the door for her, rest his hand on the small of her back. Little things I had once taken for granted. And worst of all, he looked happy. Happier than he ever did with me. I wanted to believe he'd still be hurting, missing me, wishing things had turned out differently. But he wasn't. He had moved on. And me? I was still stuck. Still chasing something I'd never get back. Still swiping through meaningless profiles, hoping someone would see me the way Kyle once did. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had already lost the only man who ever truly loved me. I don't get a happy ending. I don't get a second chance. Kyle is gone. Not just from our home, not just from our marriage, but from my life. And the worst part? He's better without me. I thought I was being funny. I thought I was proving I was still desirable, still exciting. But all I did was prove to him that I wasn't the kind of woman he could trust. Because real men, they don't fight for a woman who doesn't respect them. They don't beg to be seen as enough. They don't wait around to be humiliated again. They just leave. And once they do, they never look back. So if you're listening to this, don't make the mistake I did. Because when you turn a good man into a joke, the only punchline is goodbye.